Hi everyone, I'm Owen and these are my Lego shelves. Today I've got a Star Wars double bill for you. So I'm going to talk about two models which I picked up recently. I'm going to slide over so that I can put the build up here for you to watch as well as I prattle on about these two models. The first of which is the Acclamator-Class Assault Ship. I'm an old school guy. I'm an original trilogy kind of guy. That's just how old I am and how brilliant those films were. So this was not particularly my Star Wars, but I thought I love this scale of ships that Lego do in the Star Wars range. I've got the Tantive 4 and the Millennium Falcon and the Executor Superstar Destroyer, which are all dismantled at the minute, but probably need rebuilding for reasons I'll get into later. And I thought, I'll treat myself to this. I'll enjoy the build, even if the ship's not particularly my kind of thing. And it is very Star Wars as a look. So I thought I'd give that a go. I saw it on special, so I thought I'd have a go. I was a bit underwhelmed. I'm not saying it's a bad build, but it didn't do much for me in terms of techniques, in terms of because there are lots of nice angles going on here, don't get me wrong. But I didn't sort of feel that sort of, oh gosh, that's clever. It builds out and builds a nice looking ship. But for me, I was a bit underwhelmed by it. Maybe that's because the content rather than the ship itself. So, and particularly I think that when it's on display, it feels very linear. Again, I think that there's, they've gone to the effort of building the nice base, but the nice base is straight. There's no lean to it. There's a potential there, I feel, for this to be tipped so the ship is looking like it's doing something exciting. I know that that's not necessarily what's happening in Star Wars. With the bigger ships tend to be, horizontal. But for me, I was, like I say, I think underwhelmed is the best word for it. It occupied me for a bit, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it and I think it is a nice looking ship. There's a few nice little bits and pieces on it. You've got some roller skates being used here really nicely around this, and equally roller skates on the top for nice little bits of greebling. But I think there are lots of better things in this range. I may well have just treated myself to the AT-AT, which is, that same, not the same scale, but the same sort of size model, which I really think is a very good size of model for Lego. I think so much of what we get now, or what I get, should I say, is big, really big. And to be able to spend sort of nearer the £50 mark rather than the £100, £200 mark is really nice. And for what are, for the most part, really nice looking ships. Yeah, I'm going to put this one mostly down to it not really being my Star Wars. So a bit meh, that one. If it's your Star Wars, maybe it'll mean more to you. I'd be interested to know if it means more to anybody else who's maybe not the same age as me. And the other one that I got, I was ready to be disappointed by the build, and I really wasn't. And that is the Star Wars logo. And I thought, I bought this because I thought displaying the Star Wars Lego tends to be very grey, right? You've got grey ships and, Millennium Falcon, Tantive, the Superstar Destroyer, the AT-AT, if I get that, they're all very grey. And I thought it would be really nice to have a pop of colour on the shelf if I'm having a lot of that. Particularly when I moved the Death Star through to the other room. I kind of still wanted a little bit of Star Wars going on here. So I thought this is such an iconic set of lettering. I've got to go for it. I've got to get that. And I thought it was, as a display piece, incredibly well observed. Because I think that's a really iconic set of lettering. The shape and it's burnt into me from a very young age of just kind of like this being really important to me throughout my life, really. So I was kind of ready for the build to be a little bit maybe boring, but it really wasn't. I really enjoyed the build. It was very sort of nicely studied and nicely, because obviously the width is something they must have had to decide on. And I think that was a really good decision. It's only sort of 4 studs wide. It's enough to give stability. It's enough to give it a little bit of depth, which is not hugely necessary, because that's really what you want, is the look like that. So I really enjoyed making this. It builds really nicely up the lettering. So the lettering, it builds sort of in a vertical sense. So it's really fun to kind of see that emerge as you build it. And ultimately, it's just a really good study in font and graphic design in that kind of sense. And ended up just being a really nice, tranquil build. I really kind of enjoyed it. There's a couple of minor Easter eggs. I think, there you go. You've got a mini little Star Destroyer and Tantive there from the beginning of New Hope, just zooming along after each other, just hidden away, which is kind of cool. And I did wonder, because you can build it in 2 parts. So I did have the thought that, could you manage to do the classic with the kind of gold trim all the way around the shelves, or yellow trim, like this over here, and obviously that one down there? I think the answer to that is probably no. It's probably going to be too weighty. I could go something like this on the sides, you know, like that. But I think it'll be too weighty to hang up the top, even with my newly found putting studs in the wall. We'll see. Maybe I'll try something out. But I think it's going to look really nice just as a display piece to have in the centre of the Star Wars stuff. Reese was sort of slightly disappointed. He said that he liked the fact that with the Marvel lettering, not that we built it, but with the Marvel lettering, you've got the kind of characters popping out as well. So I don't know whether we might think about trying to do that with some of my smaller Star Wars crafts. So I've got quite a few of the little X-Wings and things like that, which might be quite good fun. They might also be quite good fun near the Death Star, but that's a thought if I want to add to it. I don't think it hugely needs it, because that lettering is just so iconic for me, and the pop of colour is lovely. So I'm kind of certainly thinking about building the other bits and pieces that I have of Star Wars stuff. Maybe I need to raise it up a little bit in the middle so it's nice and central like that. It might look pretty cool, but that's a job for the future. So yeah, strong recommend with the Star Wars lettering. I thought it was great fun, kind of Zen-like in its build. I think the Acclamator is very much, if that's your spaceship kind of thing, if that's your bit of Star Wars that you really cherish, then you'll probably get a kick out of it. For me, I'm much happier building a Millennium Falcon or the AT-AT. Like I say, I'm really looking forward to getting hold of that. So goodbye for now. Keep on building.